Hi, I'm Iko Pellet, and I'm speaking to you from Palestine House of Freedom here in Washington, D.C. It wasn't long after the intensified genocide of the Palestinian people in the Gaza concentration camp began that the Yemeni forces had imposed the blockade on the Bab el-Mandeb Straits in order to impact the economy of the apartheid state. In fact, I believe it was November of 2023 that they began imposing this blockade. And even though the Yemenis have faced enormous consequences as a result of this and paid heavily, that blockade continues and has had an enormous impact on the economy of the apartheid state, to the point that the port of Eilat, which is an extremely important port in southern Palestine, has been all but shut down. Now, 2 years into this intensified genocide and the transformation of the entire Gaza concentration camp into a death camp, the rest of the world is beginning to discuss actions against the apartheid state. First of all, we see what is known as the Hague Group, which is a group of about 30 countries from the global south that have actually come out with an agreement recently to take real action that will impact the apartheid state. So they decided on actual measures that will prevent the transfer and sale of arms to the apartheid state, and also prevent the docking and transit of arms that are headed towards the apartheid state. The UN rapporteur, Francesca Albanese, who has been on this issue right on the money from the very beginning, has come out with a report called From Economy of Occupation to Economy of Genocide. And you can see a summary, a synopsis of the report on Palestine House of Freedom Instagram page and in other places. It is an incredibly important report that demonstrates and points out the corporations that are complicit in the apartheid, and the corporations, of course, that should be subjected to boycotts. But what's interesting is also European countries that are traditionally supportive of the apartheid state and have been complicit in the genocide of the Palestinian people are now calling for sanctions or threatening with sanctions against the apartheid state, again, because of the horrific conditions in the Gaza death camp. So that means that we as constituents, we as citizens of the world, must take this opportunity now that these governments are waking up, that these governments are realizing they have to act, and place as much pressure as possible on these governments so that they actually move ahead with these actions, with these threats, and actually impose sanctions on the apartheid state. But the conditions must be made clear as well. Most of what is being discussed is allowing humanitarian aid to enter. What should be discussed is liberating the concentration camp, dismantling the death camp so that people have the freedom to move and access resources, which they can access within a 5-10 minute car drive from the death camp, from the concentration camp. The freedom of movement of the Palestinian people and their liberation should be the key issue, the key demand. Now, we all remember that the death and concentration camps during World War II, when they were liberated, they needed humanitarian aid. There's no question about that. The people in the Gaza death camp require a great deal of humanitarian aid. However, what was needed was to liberate them and bring down the regime that created these concentration camps. And the same thing applies in Palestine today. There's a Gaza death camp right now, but there are other ghettos in which Palestinians are enclosed and have no freedom of movement. So the conditions that must be demanded and the sanctions that must be imposed have to make sense. They have to be relevant to the conditions in Palestine. So the liberation of the death camp, the opening of the ghettos, access to all resources, freedom of movement, and perhaps what is most important is putting in place mechanisms that will protect Palestinians, that will provide safety and security for the Palestinian people. Nothing will change unless provisions are put in place, real mechanisms that will protect the Palestinian people and will provide a recourse for them when the apartheid state continues to kill them. Unless we create conditions that are so severe that the apartheid state cannot function, the safety and security of the Palestinian people will not be guaranteed. It's up to us as citizens of the world. It's up to us as constituents. It's up to us as people of conscience to demand of our governments to do more, to demand the end of trade, to demand sanctions, to demand boycotting, to demand divesting, to demand everything that needs to be done and everything that can be done in order to stop the genocide of the Palestinian people, liberate Palestine, and finally create a reality where Palestinians can live in peace, with security, with stability, and are no longer threatened by genocide. It's up to us, and if we act, we can do this. Thank you very much.